Welcome to the Purposeful in Life podcast, where our mission is to help individuals and organizations find their purpose so that they may live a life that is fulfilling and inspired in and out of work. Your hosts, Christina Hall and myself, Garrett Willey, are passionate to inspire, teach, mentor, and serve our community. We have 42 years of combined experience as entrepreneurs and in international corporations. Both of us have military backgrounds. Myself, Garrett, as a commissioned officer with over 9 years of service, and Christina as a military spouse of over 15 years. Welcome to Purposeful in Life, where together we go on the journey of discovering a life filled with purpose and intention. Welcome back to Purposeful in Life with your hosts, Garrett Willey and
Christina Hall.
And we're having fun here today.
Always.
And yeah, so we actually tried to do this recording one time before, and the power went out for like a whole portion of the city here in Tacoma. And we're at the BD Local Podcast Studio, and had nothing to do with them. They didn't block out the power for the whole thing. So nonetheless, we're here again.
We don't like this podcast. We're going to cut the power.
Cut the power, yeah. The whole city just... So we're here again to talk about living with purpose and intention. And we're just trying to create an impact in everyone's lives, including our own, so that when we go and we live our lives, we're doing so with knowing that we have a why and a purpose behind it. And that's what this show is all about. And that's what we talk about. We bring on guests to learn about them. Like we have a guest here today, and they can share their story about what their purpose and why is. And we hope that you as a listener will be able to, grasp something of positive nature from that will help you grow and learn. And we're going to learn from it too, because this is take 2, so we already learned a little bit. So our guest today is a digital marketer with over 10 years experience, and he comes from the South. South of us. Sacramento, California. Yeah, all those people coming up, transplanting to Washington State. And I was a transplant too, but many years ago, back in 1994.
So am I.
Yeah,
Not
but you're
from
from Germany.
So you consider yourself a naturalized Washingtonian now?
Yeah, I've been here for most of my life.
Yeah.
So definitely. I love Washington. But who knows?
Same.
Who knows where life will go? So we brought Corey on the show because we're in a networking group, Christina and I, and Corey joined it. And that's our guest, by the way, Corey Michael. So the guy sitting in between Christina and I. And he gave a presentation, and it really resonated with us because it had a lot to do with his purpose in life. And purpose, by the way, is what we do in service for others. When you really find fulfillment, it's not within yourself, but it's in what you do for other people.
Yep.
And so that's what we're here to talk about. And we also want to make sure that if you have any digital marketing needs, that Corey's available for you. So he'll be, we'll give your information at the end of the show, and during the show, you can look at it on Facebook Live or wherever this podcast is produced, and you can see it from. So anyways, that's what we're here to talk about, is your story, Corey.
Yay.
And your why. and we just want to have a good conversation with you.
Let's do it.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're doing it. So what is your purpose and your why in life?
So let me give a little bit of background that you shared last time, but not this time, just about what I did before I came up here.
Okay.
So I was an associate pastor at a church. So I was like the guy that dealt with all the stuff our lead pastors didn't want to deal with. But I also oversaw marketing, media, communication, technology, creative. I did that for the last 10 years and actually started as a intern, just graduating out of high school, kind of worked my way through the ranks, became the graphic designer, and then the media director, and then the associate pastor, and then got to preach several times a year, but is also responsible for building teams of 100% volunteers, and did volunteer development, leadership development, staff development. I helped organize several events, some of the largest ones that we do each year, some of the largest fundraisers that we do. So I've kind of had my hands and experience in a lot of things over the years.
What size was the church down there?
The church is about, I want to say 400 or so, 400 or 500 or so. Yeah.
And
So
how big is the community that you're in?
So we were in a small community called Orangevale, which I think has somewhere around, I mean, small community. I mean, I think there's like 30,000. There's not.
Not
I mean,
huge.
it's not huge, you know. But so we had people from Orangevale and some surrounding areas like Folsom and Roseville and Granite Bay and Citrus Heights that kind of all came there. But we were on this street called Hazel, and we called it Holy Hazel because there was like no joke, there's like 20 churches down this one, it's like this main street that we were on, which was crazy. So it was, but what was cool, we had good relationship with all the churches, and you know,
Awesome.
if this isn't your your flavor of church, then there's another great one right down the road. And so we're um, it's not just about us trying to build our own church. It's trying to build the church, and get people plugged into something positive wherever we can,
And build a community. I know
and build a community. Yeah, and that's
community is really important.
it.
to you.
Totally is.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll kind of launch into some of that. So pastoring, while I love the digital marketing side of it, and to this day, I mean, that's what I do for a living. What I love is the community part of it, where I get to just be positive impact on people. So one of my main things that I just was able to do at my church was help people get connected. So I kind of had a personal framework that I would work with, for example, where, when you go to a new place in general, so like let's say the business networking group we're a part of, Ignite You, the first time I went there, I knew one person, the person that invited me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody here. Luckily, I'm an extrovert, so it was fine. But the person that invited me started introducing me around to different people. So that's great. That's business. In a church setting, it can be even more awkward, or like, there's a lot of people that have the mentality like, if I even walk into a church, I'm gonna spontaneously combust into flames. Like, people literally have that train of thought,
Or
and
they're thinking, what do these people want from me?
yeah, like, oh, they're just gonna try to get my money, or they're gonna try to make me serve and volunteer or whatever. But so one of my roles, and one of the things I love to do, is just help people feel comfortable, feel connected to. So my framework was, when somebody comes, I introduce them to at least 3 other people. But I don't just introduce them to random people. I always start with like a 10-minute conversation with the new person, find out about them. Where do you live? Have any family? What do you like to do? What do you do for a job? Just kind of get a basic kind of groundwork. And then, because part of my role was just to know as many people as possible, having asked all the same kind of questions for years and years, and just knowing like what makes people tick, because I'm also a people hacker. I love to
What's that mean?
the self, like, I love to figure people out, like the self-awareness stuff for myself. I try to do that for other people too, and just know what makes people, what people's triggers are, whatever, both positive and negative. But then I can connect those new people to at least 3 other people that I know they'll have a specific connection. So whether it was, if it's a young adult, for example, I can connect them to 3 other people that either, music maybe, or sports, or whatever, but just helping people feel like they had a community to belong to. And actually, so I used to be an introvert, and believe it or not, and it was part of some of the stuff we'll talk about a little bit later with the rejection aspect of it that I've had to overcome over the years. And so the people that I naturally am drawn to are introverts, because I know especially introverts coming into a new environment. I know what it's like to be there, and to feel like maybe a little bit on the outskirts of community. So, I had a team of 30 to 40 volunteers that I oversaw at this church, and I would say 75% of them were people that were introverted, or maybe a little eclectic. I've always just been, people have been drawn to me that are just a little different in their kinds of thinking, maybe.
Your mustache gives that away.
Yeah. I like to connect with the weirdos. No joke, had some weirdos on my team. If anybody you are watching right now, I've told you this before. But just like people that maybe would naturally have a hard time like getting connected somehow. I just have been able to help them feel that. But then, to go back to the purpose, so not only am I helping people feel connected to things, but then my purpose is to help them find their purpose. So that's what I love to do. But so I'll give a great example. There's a gentleman who I just talked to him yesterday, so I have a great relationship with him. He has a ton of health issues. He was one of our camera guys, and he would be responsible for during the live services, being one of the guys to film the service going on, and we live stream to people all over. And I love his attitude on it, because he's like, I love, as often as I can make it, I love coming here. And he's a little not linear in his thinking. His thinking is kind of all over all over the place, which has caused some people to not connect with him quite a bit. So I connected him to the team. He feels like he's part of the team, but he understands that what he's doing, he's not just filming something. He is part of broadcasting a positive message to hundreds of people that watch every single week. And he's like, that's amazing to me that I get to be a part by me moving the camera around, following the preacher or the worship team or whatever, that there are other people that get the benefit of this because of what I get to do. I'm like, Don, that is an incredible testimony of what this is about. It's we're in this together. We all have this greater purpose. So that's where what I love doing, even in the digital marketing space. Like, I tell people I'm not really in the business of your business. I'm in the business of you, because I want you as a business owner to be able to connect to the people that you're ultimately trying to sell to, but there has to be a trust that's built, an authority that's built. Christina, you do this great. Like, you post the vulnerable stuff, the stuff that makes people connect to you, which builds their trust and everything. And then you have clients because of it. That's kind of, you're not in the business of what you do. You're in the business of people. You love people, and that, comes clearly across what you do, and so that's what I love to help business owners with too. That it kind of came from that pastorally minded stuff that I've done.
And that's what we want to do with the podcast here.
Yeah,
is so that when individuals are listening and they're like, "Well, I don't really know what my purpose is or what it is that I'm doing here." So if you go through the process and try to figure out an outline of what it is, and there's lots of books that we can recommend. We talked about the Simon Sinek books a lot. And you figure out kind of a basis where you can write your own mission statement. You can be like, this is why I'm here, right? Then when you figure out why you're here, you can look for things that you do in your daily life that fits to.
Yep.
Kind of like the janitor who worked at NASA, and I can't remember which president it was when he was talking about that. Who was the president during?
Don't ask me that.
Anyways, the janitor worked at NASA, and the president goes, you do such a great job. Why is that? And he's like, because I helped put a man on the moon. Right?
Yeah,
So he takes so much pride in what he's doing because he's part of a bigger vision and a bigger purpose. So if you can look for things in your career or in your job that you're doing and try to find some of that purpose in it, it may not be what you do forever.
right.
Maybe you should be looking for a way out.
Right.
But so that you can have some fulfillment in your job,
Right.
There's going to be things in your career that will match with who you are.
Totally. And here's what I've found. The things that you're most passionate about, and whether you're actually able to do that in your job or not, the passions are almost always tied to some struggle that you have overcome in your personal life that is giving you that passion to be able to do what you're doing with passion. That it's not just, even if you're only making minimum wage somewhere, if you truly love what you're doing because what you bring to the table and your experience and everything creates this passion, and it's based off of something in your life, then it makes it more meaningful. So that there's people that I know that have been working in restaurant industry, food service, whether it's a McDonald's or whatever, that love what they do because they get to provide a positive experience. They get to help, they kind of are brand ambassadors for whatever the food service is, and kind of turn that around, and because they just have a understanding of something, their kind of slice of the pie of life that they have a particular viewpoint on. They've been able to mostly successfully overcome to make what they do matter more than just flipping the burgers or whatever.
And the passion thing can come. Some people think, oh, I got to have a career that is everything I've always dreamed of, right?
Right.
And so they either don't make any money or they never really find out what their passion is.
Right.
Your passion will come when you work at things.
Yep.
Right. And then what we're talking about here with purpose, so that you have fulfillment, is it's not in yourself.
Right.
You're not, your purpose isn't to make a lot of money or to just take care of your kids and your spouse. Right. That's an underlying thing that is really super important, because the money supports the family and you need to have that security for yourself. And yes, there's whole spots in life that's important, but that's not your purpose.
Right.
Your purpose is both, like what you said, your environment, the experiences that you had. So I think it's both nature and nurture. Like I
Absolutely.
believe that God created us for a purpose, and I believe that things happen in our life, and He didn't necessarily cause those things to happen
Right.
when they weren't positive.
Right.
But those things happen, and so He puts all things together for good.
Yeah.
So we need to take what's good from that, or
Yeah.
even what's bad from that, in order to help others
Right.
overcome it, and therefore then it becomes a good out of it.
Right.
Because if you were sexually abused or physically abused, or you've had really big financial struggles,
Mm-hmm.
or failures over and over and over again, or you've struggled with depression or
Yeah.
what have you, if you can find a way for any one of those things that you've experienced in life,
Yeah.
and like, how can I help other people?
Yeah.
Then those issues in your life, those experiences,
Yeah.
will not overwhelm you anymore.
Right.
Because once you start serving others, you'll find fulfillment in that, and you'll see a reason behind everything
Right.
in life.
Right.
And so
One of
that's
the
why
things
we're here.
we talked about last time that you had brought up was, sharing things with people that maybe are going through the same kind of struggles that we have, and being able to positively encourage them, speaking of their life, so that they can kind of get through it maybe at a quicker pace than we were able
Yeah,
to, because
hopefully.
we have the benefit of hindsight, being
Yeah.
2020. Um, so you just mentioned nature and nurture. Can I share kind of?
Sure, anything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Share
good,
away, yeah.
wonderful. Because this actually is a perfect example of some of my story, because I've kind of two aspects of it, of the nature versus nurture. So,
Which create your why purpose that we,
Yes.
that we asked about 10 minutes ago.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe 15.
I think circularly, so I'll come back to it. So I guess you could say my mission statement, my why statement, or whatever, is to captivate, inspire, and motivate people to go from ordinary to extraordinary and not regret the life they live.
Oh,
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to hug you.
So,
Not regret the life they live. That's what this is all about.
So, fun fact, I have Tourette syndrome. So that is where your brain makes too much dopamine. Dopamine is, responsible for pleasure, but also neurotransmission, everything from your basic just motor functions to vocal functions. And so growing up, we found out when I was, so this is an example of the nature aspect. This is how I was born like this. We found out when I was like 2, I was having seizures, and my parents brought me into to get an MRI done, and they said, yeah, his brain is making too much dopamine, and with some other symptoms and everything, it's he has Tourette's. And so I've grown up learning about it, and having to. So when I was younger, especially, I would make these like scrunchy faces a lot, and weird. Even to this day, I have some tics that I do, some motor tics, and I've had to learn how to deal with people staring at me, asking questions. In elementary school, it got so bad, I was doing it so much that in my 3rd grade class, my mom had to go into my class and basically talk about why I am the way that I am.
No.
And that, didn't know what would be worse, to actually sit in the class while she was talking about it, or to not sit in the class while she was talking about it. I chose to sit outside, because I was just like, the 3rd grader, I didn't know what my best options were. So I went in, and everyone's like staring at me, and of course, they're kids, and but it was helpful for them to kind of understand, because it would affect my work, it would affect my ability to connect with people, and just people thought I was just a freaking weirdo, and I am, but for different reasons. But it was all throughout my life, just kind of learning how to deal with this, that kind of rejection. Like, I automatically kind of stand out because I'm doing some weird stuff with my face or my shoulders or my hands or whatever. Over time, I've learned how to control a lot of those urges. The best way to describe it is scratching a mental itch. Like, there's something in my brain, like I have to do this weird function or this facial expression or whatever, and if I do it, then it's like scratching an itch. It's the weirdest thing. That's the best way to describe it. I did a research project on it in my junior year of high school, where I talked to a neuro doctor, and I talked to the president of the Tourette Syndrome Association in Sacramento, and just like learned all about it. What's really cool is I've been able to use the knowledge that I have to help a ton of families, because I can spot kids with Tourette's like really easily, and I remember once when I was working at a restaurant, there was this kid, he's about 10 years old, just like, I mean, his face was crazy, just like he could not control it. And I was serving his family's table, and they're getting ready to go, and I pulled the dad aside, and I said, hey, can I ask you a question? Does your son have Tourette's? And he said, yeah. How do you know? And I kind of, everything I just told you, I told him, and about my experience, and told him some of the triggers to look for, such as artificial red food coloring, something I'm allergic to. It's a trigger. Fluoride as well, which is in all the water, and a couple other things. And he's just like in like basically in tears by the time we're done talking, because he's like, people haven't been able to help me with this. Doctors haven't been really helpful with this. Like, thank you so much. And so that is an example of taking what the enemy meant for harm, and the Lord now is using it for good, and being able to help other people figure this thing out. That it took me through junior year of high school to figure out anything, and even I've still learned stuff even since then. And so that is part of the rejection that I have faced over the years, socially, and then also in my own mind, and like, is this going to disqualify me from whatever? I mean, thank God I don't have the version of Tourette's that is like the cussing, screaming one, because that'd be really awkward as a pastor. In the name of, luckily I don't have that version. I have the other two versions, but that's another conversation. The other side of it for me, and more the nurture side, is so my earliest memory, this is something I shared in my presentation, one of my earliest memories was when I was in preschool. And I was hanging out with these boys. There's probably 7 or 8 of us or whatever. And one day they pulled me aside and said, hey, you can't hang out with us anymore. Little turds. And I'm not bitter. And I remember just like standing there, just feeling obviously like crushed, like, what? Why? And so I didn't really know what to do. And so they go off and play. And so there's these other 2 boys that I had hung out with all the time, Tyler and Casey. For whatever reason in my brain, Casey and Percy were the same name, because I was thinking like a purse or a case being the same. And so I kept calling him Percy, and he yells at me. He's like, my name's not Percy, it's Casey. And then they left me, and I'm like, oh, Lord. And so I'm like, it was just like this crazy time as a little preschooler. But then all throughout my life, I've had moments, several moments of just feeling not like I am in it, in the community, in the know. I mean, in high school, the group that I hung out, I didn't have one particular group that I really hung out with. I had several, but partially because I didn't feel like I could fit into any of them. And, they had trust issues with me, and I had trust issues with them, and I was the last to know things. It's just like, and there's a number of other moments in between there. And so I graduate high school, and I'm like, okay, this can't all possibly be everybody else being bat crap crazy. Like, there's got to be some underlying thread of why I'm experiencing this rejection / just like not great relationships. Like, there's got to be something there, and because it's happening in my personal relationships and friendships, it's happening at my workplace, it's happening in some aspects in my family. And I was like, what the heck is it? And then light bulb moment, I was like, oh, it's me. I'm the issue. But what was really powerful in that for me was just like understanding, like, if you're experiencing the same issue in multiple areas of your life, whatever the issue is, like, it's not everybody else. There's something going on with you that you need to take a serious look at and observe. And it's not always drastic changes necessarily, but it's stuff that is that just needs to be addressed, right?
Yes.
And so for me, how I kind of have taken that kind of just like thread of rejection all over my life is, man, I don't want anybody else to feel like they go somewhere and can't connect, because I had multiple facets and groups of people that I tried to get into that I just couldn't. Even at my church, actually, not the one that I just came from. I was there for 12 years, but the one I went to previously, it's a great church, nice people, but I never felt like I connected into it. I felt like there was just like a lack of effort. For sure, there's a lot of it, again, me. I was part of the issue. But then I didn't feel like there was enough substance effort that was made towards me to get me connected. And so I was like, I don't like that. And I want people to be able to come to church, people that have never been to church in their entire life, or just felt rejected their entire life by whatever their group of people, at work and family and whatever, the black sheep. Like, I want people to come and feel like they can rest and connect and be able to step into something that is larger than themselves, and they understand that all the stuff that they came in with doesn't matter here.
Yeah.
You can be a drug addict. Hopefully we help you work through that. You can be a drug addict. You can be the black sheep of the family. You can be whatever it is, but you can leave that at the door and come here and be who you were created to be. And we're going to give you the tools to be able to move forward into that. So, there's some of the self-help kind of stuff, the motivational sermons, like here's 5 steps to overcoming anger, which was a phenomenal series my pastor did, just saying. But there's a number of different things we would resource people with, and small groups and getting people involved into even smaller community to help them. And I just love that process when people make that switch from feeling isolated and alone to, man, I feel like I'm a part of something. Like that's what gets me going in the morning. And that was something we talked about last time. What gets you out of bed in the morning is like, I want people to be able to, like, I had this great desire to help people just make those connections and get from point A to point B, so that one day when it's time for them to die, because we all do, that they're not going to look back and have that regret, like, I wish I had joined that group, or I wish I could have done something better with my life, or done something meaningful with my life. And that's the other side of it, of what gets me out of bed in the morning, is like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and go, what did I do with my life
that you had not lived?
Exactly. So
wow, I'm speechless. Like, everything you just said, like, literally resonated with me, because when you said black sheep, I'm the black sheep.
Yeah.
And also what you said, like, the common denominator, like, you have to look at yourself first. It's not just you,
right,
but a lot of the things that you're going through, others are reflecting. They're like, you should see them as a mirror,
right,
and then just figure it out from there. You don't have to blame yourself for everything. Please don't do that.
yeah, yeah,
don't.
Absolutely.
But look at yourself and see how you can improve. Take some feedback. Talk to people that you look up to. Or, in my case, like, I had nobody. Like, everybody else, like you said, I was all over the place with my thinking, and I was, like, totally out of wherever everybody else was. I wanted more out of life. Always have.
Yeah.
But nobody else did. They always had that linear thinking.
Yeah.
So I turned to, podcasts and YouTube videos, not podcasts back then, but seminars and all that stuff. So please, please, please do that. And what I found here in Germany, I didn't grow up in church. It's totally different over there.
Sure, yeah.
But coming over here and going to church, it's actually, applicable to life. And like you talk through it. And I wish I would have been at your church. That just sounds amazing that you make those connections for people. Because I'm also guilty of being an introvert, and I had the same experience.
You're not guilty. That's
guilty,
how you are, and that's amazing. You
that's
have qualities and strengths that I, as an extrovert, don't have.
Yeah, but inside I'm an extrovert. Like, I always wanted to be one.
Sure, yeah.
But when you described, like, when you came to Ignite You and you didn't know anybody, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
So I totally resonated with you. And so.
Well, I think the thing you said about the mirror is good. So I have this thing that I tell people, like, if they're experiencing stuff and they're trying to figure it out, I'm like, okay, this is going to be really hard, but if you do it, I promise it'll help. So I like to tell people, find like 3 people that you trust, like they're for you 100%. No, no matter what, but not the people that are going to be like patronizing to you and just like, you want people that are going to be supportive of you, but not like just put up with your crap, like
and
people that are going to tell you the truth in love. Okay. So find 3 people and ask them, what is it like to be on the other side of me? So we don't know what it's like to be our friend in relationship with us. Right? We only know what it's like to be us. So asking people, what do you experience when you interact with me? If I were to walk into a room of a party and you're in that room, what is the thought that comes into your mind when I enter in that room? Is it, oh man, I am so glad Corey is here? Is it, oh man, who can I go talk to so that I can be distracted? Or, like, oh, so high maintenance, or he's so self-serving, or whatever it is. Like, so you ask the question with these 3 trusted people, what is it like to be on the other side of me? And let them say whatever they're going to say. You have to take some of it with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
and some people will attack your character. That's not what you want to pay attention to. That's going to be more of their own preferences or whatever of their ideal person, which doesn't exist. But more of like, what are the things that they feel that are attached to behavior that you have? So thought patterns that you verbalize, or things that you do that may be, just have some kind of negative impact. So I'll give an example. So there's this one gal who's a really great friend of mine, and I did this with her because I was trying to figure my life out. And I said, what's it like to be on the other side of me? And she said, you're kind of a jerk. And she actually said a different word, but I don't want to say it on this podcast. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And because it honestly just floored me. And she said, you're nice to women and everything, but you don't like hold the door, just like little chivalrous kinds of things. Like, and, it wasn't anything big. Like, there wasn't anything I was, just obscenely doing. She was just using an example, like, of how to up my game and how I presented myself in relation to women specifically. And and she's like, you're never disrespectful. Like, it's nothing like that. It was just like how you treat. And then she talked about some stuff with men too, and just my general relationship. But I was like, man, unless she told me that and we had that trust, unless that happened, like, I don't know that I would have changed, because you don't know what you don't know. So that's why it's such a powerful thing to understand what it's like to be on the other side of you, because it gives you this crazy perspective, and it really does all have to go back to behavior. So this actually ties in to what I do as a business. Like,
Tell us
there's
more about that.
there's a difference between marketing and branding. Okay, and I do digital marketing, but I have branding, website, and social media stuff. Marketing is what you do, but branding is how you make people feel. And businesses, what they get wrong a lot is they cater to themselves. They cater to how they think people, or they cater to the people that are just like them, and this will totally work. Roofing, like, you have a specific message that maybe in your mind it makes sense, but to other people, like, well, I don't know. Or with what you do and your joy fuel living stuff, and even digital marketing stuff, I have to help people. Like, I can't market to other 30-year-old millennial white guys, because I know how we think, but that's not my target audience. So whatever your target audience is, you need to understand, one, what they want really, but two, how are you making them feel?
I've heard a lot of people talk about, when it comes to business like that, is creating an avatar of who your ideal client is.
Yeah.
Right.
So I slightly disagree with that.
I kind of do too.
Yeah.
But I've taken it down a different road. Like, for me in my business, it's like, I can't really create an avatar for that, because do you own a home?
Right.
Does it have a roof? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's a really easy
You're my
one.
ideal client. Yeah.
But actually, yes and no.
Yeah.
Because I really only want to work with people that resonate with me.
Right.
So I'll be like, I'm a Christian. My values are integrity,
Yep.
quality, and leadership that's of service, not of authority.
Right.
And if you resonate with those 4 things,
Yep.
cool. I'd love
We're
to
good.
work with you.
Yeah.
If you think that I am crazy and you don't want to have anything to do with me, then that's okay too.
Yep.
Move on.
Yep.
Right? Because
Exactly.
there's, more than half the country will resonate with me. So there's plenty there. And then of those, how many do own homes?
Right.
A lot.
Right.
And then at some point, that will get to the point where it might need a roof, because
Sure.
then it lasts about 20, 25 years. most of the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Right. So at some point, homes need roofs.
And the
right?
avatar is based on demographic.
Yeah.
But I try to approach it from psychographic. So
What does that
psychographic
mean?
it isn't so. Again, so the demographic is who that person is. So they're a white male, 30-year-old. That's their demographic. Psychographic is how are they thinking. You're selling to their value system, to their feelings and their emotions, and how they are thinking about a certain thing. So I'll give an example of one of my clients, she is a health transformation coach. And she was like, how do I market to people like you? And I said, number one, how dare you? What do you mean people like me? Number
Oh, I
two,
need to lose some weight.
yeah.
Better shape.
And then, she was like, no,
Don't
you're,
take care of our
yeah,
skin because
yeah.
we're guys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Skincare. What's
my
that?
wife, my wife
The same soap I
hates
use
me.
on my
She's
butt.
yeah,
that's skincare. We're guys. It's one
yeah.
soap for
It's-
everything.
It's fine.
Everything. Yeah.
So anyway, she's like, how do I sell to people like you? I was like, well, tell me your Sadie over here. She's dying. I'm like, how are we running out of time? Like, what's
No.
our time?
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
you're
We got plenty of time.
So I was like, well, tell me your sales pitch as a health transformation coach. So she does health, finance, and mind. So she's like an overall kind of transformation coach. I said, so give me your sales pitch. She is a 6-year-old lady. She 60-year-old lady.
Wow.
She's a toddler. No, she's a 60-year-old lady, and her husband went through this program, and they experienced amazing results. They were both. I've seen the before and after pictures, like incredible things, and they're like their finances like totally changed, and their mindsets totally changed. They're actually in the top 10% of the people that do what they do or something now. Really, really successful. But most of their clientele are 60-year-old men and women that want the same thing. And she's like, I want to reach more people like you. I said, okay, so give me your sales pitch. And she basically said, I'm paraphrasing, but she said basically along the lines of, we help you get your finances back in order, take control of your finances, take your health and fit your goal, whatever it is, and what's the mind? And overcome whatever mental blocks you have. Okay, it's not bad. That's a good little snapshot of what she does. But I was like,
yeah, but how do you get a client out of that?
right.
Yeah.
But it works for certain demographic. Okay, so now I said, okay, so let's think of the millennial psychographic here. I said, here's how you sell to somebody like me. There's a few different aspects. One, you can't really truly, you have to build a relationship first. You have to get to know the person, especially in a service like that. Like you can't just go in and say, hey, you should lose some weight. Like you don't do that.
Not you,
right?
Christina,
Yeah,
because you should gain some weight.
yeah, you're like a twig. But yeah, you're. Anyways.
Me, yeah, you can say
yeah.
that to me.
So you need to lose some weight.
Yes. Sadie looking at us laughing.
Right?
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't just go up to somebody and say that. You get to know them. Maybe there's a reason why they are. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe they just. Maybe they have a dad bod because it happens to dads when they have their babies. That's what I'm experiencing myself. I'll actually talk about that in a second, believe it or not. Maybe there's some just general health issue that they have. You don't know, so you have to go into it with an empathetic approach first. Get to know them. So you got to be intentional with.
And how do you do that when you're marketing? Because you can't do that to 100,000 people at once.
Right. Exactly. So, a lot of what I do is with the smaller business stuff. There are some scalable things. We can talk about that in a minute, though. But so with this lady, I said, so here's what you do. You got to be intentional. You got to be consistent. You got to be specific. You have to be intentionally get to know me. You're not going to necessarily sell me on your service in the first meeting. So but you intentionally set up the meeting, get to know a person. Second thing is you got to be specific with what you're trying to accomplish. You go into every meeting knowing they could be a potential client at some point, but you don't lead with that. You lead with getting to know some specifics like, tell me about your life. Tell me where you're at in your phase of life. And so this lady, I know her well. So she knows that my wife is not working right now because she's pregnant, about to give birth in 5 weeks. And so I'm working extra. And I also launched my own digital marketing agency, having done it as a side gig while I was working at the church for 10 plus years. I launched it into this full thing. So I'm working extra. I don't have as much time to go to the gym right now. And so I have unfortunately begun developing a little bit of a dad bod. And so, I said, so you get to know those things specifically about me. You get to learn about my financial situation and whatever, since it's an all-inclusive package thing. And then the be consistent is, I might tell you no right now, but I need to talk to my wife about it. I need to figure out if it's going to make sense for me, what it's going to do with my schedule, whatever. And then you're consistent in following up, but not just trying to get something out of it, but adding value. Like, hey, I read this article or I heard this podcast. Here, check it out, because it's exactly this is something I do all the time with people, with clients too. Like I had a client the other day that is a cheesecake guy in our group, Dano. So he wants to expand into more bakery kind of stuff. And I had literally the day before listened to a podcast about a bakery that went from zero money to they just opened an 18,000 square foot bakery. So I was like, Dano, I'm going to send you this podcast. And I haven't even done anything with him yet, but I'm trying to just add value to him. So that's what I told this lady, the health transformation coach is that's how you begin the process of understanding how I think. So you're selling and marketing to this psychographic rather than the demographic. Does that make sense?
I think so. The thing that resonated with me, what you were saying, is adding value to people.
Yeah.
Right. So if we keep on, this podcast, Chrissy and I have nothing to sell. Right. We're going to keep on doing it. We're going to do more and more and more of them. We're going to learn a lot and try to educate other people along the way.
Yep.
And we just want to add a lot of value so that
exactly.
at some point we're like, okay, a year or less down the road, we're going to work on writing a book. Right. And if we can build up a listener base of people that are like resonating with what we're talking about together by having people like you, Corey, on the show with us, and like Donna last 2 weeks ago, and other individuals come on and we all talk about passion and purpose and living with intention. And we're trying to like portray that onto the listeners, whoever listens, either now live or a decade from now. It doesn't matter, right? But by providing so much value that when we do have something to offer, it's like Gary V's book. Did you ever hear that one?
I'm familiar
with
it.
Jab, right hook. And what he's talking about is give, and ask. But we'll just give for like a year or two.
Yeah.
And then when we have something that has a huge amount of value,
right,
like a $20 book that helps people with everything that we learned our whole lives, right? Brought into something to take, like Tony Robbins talks about decades into days.
Yeah.
I love that. We want to be able to provide what we learn and go and continue doing things like those seminars or that CEO space one that I went to and all of that, so that we could take these decades or even more. Because when you go to those seminars, you're learning from people that have had 80-year lifespans of learning.
Right.
And they talk about something for 2 hours that took them 50 years to learn.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so we want to compile that over and over again and learn ourselves and teach it, because that's where my purpose is to teach and mentor.
Yep.
And teach it to everyone else that would be willing to listen.
Yeah.
So that they can then save time on their process,
Yeah.
their journey of life. We want you to have a fulfilling life, is what it comes down to.
Totally.
Other.
And so then even to link this back to what I was just talking about with like the psychosocial stuff or psychographic in my story and everything. So I'll go back to like the church that I didn't really feel connected to me. So, if they are talking about and preaching about something that is totally irrelevant to my life. So I didn't get caught up in drugs or alcohol or sleeping around. My issue was I had a lot of family issues. So this is another kind of aspect of my story is my entire family are all addicts. And I'm the only one that
drug and alcohol, or
yeah. Yep. They've all been sober for a few years now. My mom, cool story. She's actually the senior counselor at the rehab facility that she got clean in 5 years ago. So that's a great example of turning that around too. There was 1 year where my mom, my dad, and my sister were all in a mental hospital. Not at the same time, all throughout the year. My sister, between the age of 13 and 17, tried to kill herself 6 times with a variety of different things. My dad was alcoholic. My mom, prescription drugs. My sister, both of those things as well. And then, I had extended family members that were all caught up in the same things. One of them got caught up in sex trafficking, just crazy stuff. And then here I am, and I'm like, what the heck is going on around me, in this youth group that I was a part of. And again, I love the people there. I still connect with some of them to this day, but, it was more motivational kind of style stuff, which is great. It's needed, but I didn't feel like anybody knew that stuff about me. So there wasn't any kind of, listen, people don't need to cater to me, but there should be some aspect where people can connect to me because they understand what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and
you want to do that for others.
exactly what I want to do for others. That's why my approach to digital marketing doesn't have to do with your industry. It has to do with you and what you do and your experiences and your passions and your hindrances. And if you're experiencing something in your business where you're like not getting business for some reason, it's usually tied to a fear of some sort. And that fear is linked back to something else. And so so it's totally funny. Digital marketing is a front for me.
For a pseudo-psychologist.
Yeah, totally. But then, I help people understand a lot of those links and then be able to move forward. And strategy has always been like a strength of mine, and just seeing like, here's 3 things that you can do today to begin fixing what you're going for, and then be able to move forward in your business. So it all links back to just my experience of like, I didn't get a lot of that in my earlier years, and then my pastors at the church I just came from did help me with that, and that's why I stuck around, and that's why I became one of the main staff members and everything as I continued to grow, because they helped me grow. So I learned a lot from them as well. They helped me grow, and then my own self-awareness journey and everything. But I love helping business owners in the digital marketing space, because really I get to help business owners as people and overcome their stuff, or find their passions, or find their passion, find their purpose, to be able to be successful. Like we want people to succeed in what they're doing in life.
Integrate that passion and purpose.
Totally. So let me ask you a question.
Please do. Oh, you got close to the mic.
Let me ask you a question, both of you. How do you guys, so this is about passion and purpose, so how do you guys communicate to people how they can find their passion?
That is a good question.
So, one is this podcast, right? Because we've created this all with that intention, helping people find their purpose.
Yeah.
Not so much passion, because passion can wane. It can come and
Sure.
go, and it'll cycle at different points in your life with different things, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I said earlier that when you can create a passion towards something by getting really involved in it and learning a lot about it. You can become a plumber or a sewer guy or an electrician or whatever, and that doesn't, like, how can you be passionate about running a wire through a wall?
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
but what if what you could do is once a year you donate time to helping out some family, like I'm wearing the shirt today, the Habitat shirt, right? You find a way to be able to like serve other people with that. And I think that what you can do is when someone does a little bit of deep digging and finding out what their purpose is, it's probably not going to be running wire.
Sure.
Right. Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a million trades or
Right.
different professions.
Right.
It's not going to be necessarily plugging stuff into a digital marketing campaign.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I hate that.
yeah,
To be honest.
so that's a chore, right? You don't want to wash dishes when you get home.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to do your laundry.
Right.
But you have to, because it's about taking care of your family. Right. And taking care
Occupational hazard.
and being a steward of what it is that you're responsible for.
Right. Right.
Right. Now there's chores that you do, and then there's actions that you do that are specific to purpose. Right. In order to find your purpose, that's why we have these purpose statements. Right. Once you are able to identify what that is, right, then you can use you can think about that when you're going from day to day. Like, did I do something that fulfills that? Right. It could be something even somewhat mundane. Did I make a phone call? Did I connect with somebody? Did I ask people questions on how I can serve them? It's different for every person what that service is going to be.
Yeah.
But I think the easiest way, if you have no idea what it is, the easiest way to find a passion and purpose that are tied together is to start serving other people.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can do so with your interests. If you like music, it can be with music. If you like art, it can be with art. If you like audio or video, it could be with that. That's why like the churches are always like, hey, come serve.
Right.
Right. It's not just about filling in bodies into positions so they can have some growth machine.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's what it kind of feels like from the outside. They're just trying to do a growth machine to get a bunch of free labor. But what it is when you serve, you find purpose in it of yourself.
Yep.
And if you could do like the little disc model test, you can forced me to do.
What are your disc results?
DI.
Okay. I'm ID.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I did it again and I came up ID, but then I read all the descriptions of it, and I was like, no, the test was wrong.
Yeah.
I am DI.
That was
like,
the D in you.
I'm very direct and
Yeah.
decisive, and but yeah,
Yeah.
and make decisions and don't like to be told what to do.
Right.
The F-bomb floats in my head all the time. When
Sure.
people try to tell me, oh, you need to do it this way. I'm
Yeah, you're like-
no, I can make up my own rules, and I do.
Yeah.
I do.
good.
Yeah. And I always think that I'm right. So, because I am,
Very
so it's
true.
really easy.
Yeah, it's
really
easy to think that when you are. Totally. Yeah. So, Christina, what about you? What how do you help people find their passion and whatnot, and in relation to their purpose?
I think my biggest thing is, like you said earlier, I love to share like different stories out of my life, and hopefully that will either resonate with them in some way, shape, or form. Have them reach out. Like I have a couple friends that actually reached out to me afterwards for one post or another, and I sat down with them and just brainstormed. Or
Nice.
it was not an official brainstorming, but I asked them
Sure.
a question, and like you,
Yeah.
pseudo
Yeah.
whatever coaching, and I like to do that. And I want everyone to know, like, if they have something, it doesn't matter what they are. I'm not gonna try them to sell them on my stuff
Sure,
what I'm doing,
yeah.
because I don't believe, everybody has their own reason behind it. But I found my passion. I always, how you say it, I didn't let it out because I thought it was a bad thing, and that I couldn't do anything with it. And I want to come back to one earlier statement you made about passion, is that a lot of people don't know it. I believe they might know it, what they're passionate about, but don't think they can make money with it,
Sure.
and they can use it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So they're just going to bury it and not talk about it or
Yeah.
do anything with it, which I want to, redo and undo kind of, and tell them, no, you can make something out of anything really these
Yeah.
days,
Do
especially
it.
with
Do both.
technology and,
Yeah.
all kinds of opportunities out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. And for me, like, I'm just this morning, I actually had a call with someone that we wanted to share or figure out a way to share more stories so more people can get inspired and learn that maybe they can relate in some sort of way and can figure out how they can
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah.
You know?
Storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to communicate principles and ideas. I mean,
Yes.
before the written word, there was the spoken word, right? And I mean, the very first thing that we learn about God is that he is a creator with what he spoke.
With the
In the
word.
beginning,
Yes.
God created the heavens and the earth. He's spoken into existence, right? And that's how information was passed down, was the storytelling. Jesus told parables to communicate truths, and to this day, even in digital marketing and whatnot, and whatever we do, I mean, with what you do, let's say roofing, for example, there's a lady at our church back home who needed a new roof on her house. And so a whole bunch of people from the church, general contractors, different people, decided to just donate their time and the cost of the resource to put and she's a widow and everything, and she didn't have the means to fix it. And so then we captured that video and then put it together in a nice story, and then sent that out, social media and whatever. People freaking loved it, and it's the telling the story, communicating the value and everything. And so you sharing story, and I think that's part of what works with your brand, is you tell stories and you communicate your thoughts, and I think it's so powerful. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I like what you're asking there, because we
Yes.
gotta bring people together.
Yeah.
And the community that coming full circle.
Yeah.
It's back to community.
Yeah.
I think we're created for a couple of things. We are created to create. Because we were created in God's image.
Right.
Right. And he created the world just like you just said, right? We are created to create things. We need to be involved in building something new for our lives. And that's what I get all excited and passionate, building stuff. At first I was like, oh, it's construction. And I was like, oh, it's building a business. And I still am passionate about all those things.
Right.
I love doing that stuff, but it's like, but the best use of my time would be helping other people build a future for their lives where they find out what their purpose is. Right. So that probably resonates with you because that's what you want to do.
Yep, exactly.
And that's what Christina and I both want to do. Right. And it's like, well, we can have all these other things that we're doing, but the the most fulfillment's going to come when we're serving other people. And that's what we keep on saying it because we're beating a dead horse with it. But we want our listeners to understand that when you step up, and sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's going to be like, I can't afford to do that.
Right.
Do it anyways.
Right.
That's my favorite little motto in saying,
anyways.
do it anyways. I take cold showers
Do
in
hard
the morning
things.
because
Oh,
I do it anyways.
You're a monster. Cold showers?
I am.
That's gross.
Yeah. You know why? Because I start my day off, and I'll start with like a hot shower sometimes and then cold. Sometimes I'll do cold the whole time. But the reason I'm doing it is because it's uncomfortable. And the pain is just all in your head because it's not really pain. It's just uncomfortable, right? And so sometimes I'll be like, and the great thing by telling people, do it anyways, all the time, do it anyways. Then I'll be standing there, I was like, I don't want to do it today. And then what runs through my mind? Do it anyways. So I'm like holding myself accountable because it's like someone's like, you could be like, did you take cold shower this morning?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, yeah, I've done it like almost like every day for like probably 2 years.
Nice.
Right. But when you do that in the morning, then when other hard things come up that you don't want to do, you're like, oh, this really isn't that hard.
Yeah.
I can call that person that's going to be uncomfortable. I can do whatever, right? You just have to do it anyways. And I'm not perfect at it.
Sure.
I fail all the time. And that's part of being in business and being an individual and growing is none of us are perfect. We are sinners. We fail at things all the time. But the difference between someone who is an entrepreneur, which is just really someone who's putting themselves out there and going for their dreams and taking risks. And the risks aren't, I mean, good Lord, people think it's a risk to go out and create a job for yourself. You're just as much of a risk, maybe more so, being completely relying on somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yep.
In some other industry or some other business.
Yep.
Right. Most people have, dozens of managers that could fire them for really no reason.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, somebody can look at a controller, a finance person that oversees a business could be like, we have 420 of these personnel and we could do the same job with 400. And they randomly pick 20 people that they think maybe aren't fitting a demographic, whatever. It can be just on a spreadsheet and you just get a notice the next day.
Right.
Right. And you can work for yourself and we can have an industry downturn. Right. Where you have to, but the thing when you work for yourself is you can look for ways around it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you
you
have
can
that
look for
flexibility.
solutions.
Yep.
You can have flexibility. And I've been noticing a lot of times is that people aren't able to think through solutions. It's like, to me in construction, I'm just like, so much information is out there and available.
Yeah.
All the code is available.
Yeah.
I can look up any code for any industry in like 5 minutes.
And how to do it on YouTube.
And then you can look up how to do it on YouTube, and you
Right,
probably will mess some stuff up.
Yeah. Totally. Yep.
Because it does come down to having an ability to like cognitively think through, like because everything's never the same with everything. But full circle back to it, we're just trying to help each other and others with being able to live with intention and not just float through life.
Yeah, I love
right?
it.
Because it's so sad, and I think we talked about this the first go around when we had our blackout was our power outage for the whole portion of the city of Tacoma, is that people just float through life and we feel bad for them
Yes.
and irritated. Like, why do you just go to work? You work your 38.5 hours.
What is wrong with you?
Pretty much.
Full time, 38.5 hours average across the country.
Yeah.
And you say you have no time.
Right.
And then you complain that you don't have anything that you want to have in life or you want more stuff. First of all, stop buying shit to impress other people.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you can have nice stuff if you can afford it and you want it.
Yep.
For you and your family, there's nothing wrong with having nice stuff, but don't buy it for other people. Live below your means. Think about the future. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm talking to my 20-year-old self.
Sure.
Or 25-year-old self.
And that's
right?
what we talked about earlier is like what are things that we wish we could communicate to the younger version of ourselves or people that are currently going through what we went through that could help them move through those old ways of thinking or those inaccurate ways of thinking quicker that we wish somebody would have told us with the hindsight we have now.
That is a great question to kind of like leave the audience with is
what would you tell 20-year-old you?
Whatever you're seeing, wherever you're seeing this on, if it's like Facebook or what have you, we would love to see responses from people, and then we'll know that you actually listened to the whole thing too. But
Hopefully, it was worth
but
it.
yeah, but then you can be like, what? And maybe we'll look at some comments too. It would be good for each of us to put in there. What would we tell ourselves from 20 years ago? Doesn't have to be 20-year-old self. It could be from 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? What would be the advice I'd give myself that would save time in my life and help me take steps to move forward faster, and really seek that fulfillment that I'm searching for? Because we sought for it when we were teenagers. We sought for it when we were in our early 20s, and then we just lived, and you start fading away, and you're like, oh, I got to be so busy on earning money and paying bills and like whatever it is, fitting in with what other people want, having fun and playing. Like I lived for a long time just to like have toys, like boats and stuff like that, just so that I can like spend all my time at work so I can go spend all the rest of the time playing, right?
Yep.
And you can have fun. There's nothing wrong with having fun, but I wasn't thinking about a year away, much less 20 years down
Right.
the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Or building a future for the
I
long
got
term.
plenty of time.
Yeah, everyone, and we all have plenty of time, but you could die tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
Right. So did you do something today?
Right.
That's going to, when you come to the end of your life, be like, you can, like, what if you got in a bad accident and you're lying there and you have 5 minutes left to live? Are you going to be like, was this worth it? Did I do what I should have done with my life? Right. But the question is, what would you tell yourself from 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And we would love to hear comments, because that, when you make a comment, you're going to help somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Yep.
So Corey,
Garrett.
tell the audience how they can get in touch with you and where they can look up what it is that you do to see
Yes.
if your services could benefit them.
And it will. Before we do that, can you guys tell me what your quote is that you live by? Because I have mine and I wanted to share it with you guys. But I would love to know, because you asked me, do you have a motto or quote that inspires you that you live by?
Well, I just really like that Henry David Thoreau poem, "Well, then I went into the woods."
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, because I refer to that all the time.
You do. Yep.
Because I do not want to come to the end of my life discover that I have not yet lived.
Yep.
So, and I've loved that since like the mid '90s.
Yeah. Nice. That's a long time ago.
Yeah,
That's like almost 30 years ago.
yeah. You
Yeah.
were babies.
I was born in 88, so,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, what about you, Christina?
I have so many quotes that I live by and love, but one that I carry with me on my arm is actually, it's not really a quote, but motivational, I guess. She believed she could, so she did.
Oh, nice. That's a good one. Nice.
Yeah.
Mine is from Salvador Dali. He says, I don't do drugs, I am drugs.
I love that. Love it.
That's actually a real quote by him. That's not my life quote. My life quote is, the point of building others up is not just imparting great wisdom, but reminding people of what God has already said. So, I don't have to make up anything, because we've been given the good book with the good advice, with the good, the Proverbs, the direction and everything. And that was something that I got wrong for a long time, was I was trying to just be Corey, encouraging people. But because of, that quote, which was in a sermon that I heard, that has driven me like, yeah, that totally makes sense. I don't have to, I'm human, like you said. I don't have to make it up. God's given us the plan. He's given us the ability to be able to see steps forward. So
And it's okay to make mistakes.
it is. Yep.
So find Corey.
So find Corey. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. It's just at the Corey Michael. My website is thecoreymichael.com. Just super easy, but has a list of all my services and everything on there. Would love to chat with you. So find out
look
how I
awesome.
can add
Well,
value.
All right. Thanks for
Cool.
joining us.
Thank you guys for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks.
Until next time, come back and visit us at Purposeful in Life with Garrett Willie, and
Christina Hall.
Cheerio.
bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.